Hey everybody, this is Off Leash with Eric Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. You know, Thanksgiving is upon us, and Eric, there's a heck of a lot to be grateful for and thankful for in America today. You travel the world, you see all the best and the very worst human conditions that people live in. You know, in America, 50, 60 years ago, there may have been some of those conditions. Today, with our economy, free markets, free market solutions, poverty is on the wane. But this is something that you observe on a regular basis in your travels. And I wanted to reflect on Thanksgiving, what America should be grateful for, but also contrast it to what the rest of the world sees, the conditions that they live in. And I thought nobody better than you to sort of reflect upon that contrast.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I'm just back from a trip through a couple of very rough countries in Africa that are enduring significant conflict, poverty, deprivation, disease, and it was a great reminder of what to be thankful for. I mean, one of my colleagues got really sick, and you get to a hotel coming through these very, very rough areas in a Western managed hotel, and it's a little island of normalcy. The water works, the electricity works, the sanitation works, there's no trash in the lobby. It works. And to me, it's a great example. It's a little island of good governance. And it's a reminder, really, of that's the best way to help these countries do better is by bringing bits and parts of America, of American governance, not just America, Western governance, to give them the efficiencies, because clearly those governments have a very, very hard time governing effectively. And yet it's the things in America that we take for granted, like utilities, like street cleaning, like sanitation services, provided by the private sector. And it's when it's government, in these cases abroad, they're depending on government solutions, they are really, really suffering for it. And so, there's private cities initiatives, basically taking private money, renting some very undervalued or very, very slum land in these rough countries, and they bring their own money, put in their own infrastructure, power, water, sanitation, roads, with a fence that says inside this facility, it's our rules. And so it's professional Western governance. And I think that's the model of being successful. And it really brings me back, and why I want to talk about this at Thanksgiving, is that's really how America was founded. We were not founded by the British government or the Dutch government. We were founded by private companies listed really on the London Stock Exchange by the City of London. The Massachusetts Bay, Plymouth, Jamestown companies were for-profit companies. They hired private military contractors, guys like Miles Standish, the guy with the awesome beard, and John Smith, who was he was such a wild man, they clapped him in leg irons on the ship on the way to Jamestown. And when he got to Jamestown, he became the governor. But those companies set up colonies to get timber, furs, gold, tobacco, and they made it work. Not all the colonies worked, but a lot of them did. And that's really what built America. And we should be so thankful that the expectation, the people came here that were brave. And, the frontier spirit, as it pushed into the interior of America and tamed and provided infrastructure for all the millions of people following after, it's extraordinary. I have a farm in Middleburg, Virginia, and it's halfway between Alexandria, which was the port city back in 1750, and Winchester, which was the edge of the British Empire at that time, and Middleburg was one day's horse ride from each. And so the forefathers that came before us that were brave, that took their family, took their belonging, and set off into dangerous places to make it better, it's extraordinary what they did. And I would say there is an opportunity for Americans that want to be spirited to go abroad to do private city type initiatives in these companies, not to colonialize, but to take capital at risk and make something better and improve it. And in doing so, improve the lives significantly of locals at the same time. Because the Western governance model works. And as I look at the leadership struggling in so many super third world countries that suffer from corruption, I would rather have small town mayors from America governing those countries than some of the corruption they have there now. But again, on a voluntary basis, not forcibly recolonizing, but exporting professionalism, discipline, and the lack of corruption that is much more consistent in America.
And sourcing local labor, local natural resources to help that community rise up from the poverty that you witness on a regular basis, correct?
Yeah, exactly. When you look at farming yields, when you look at how the mines are set up or factories, these folks want capitalism. The reason millions of people come to America illegally is they're coming generally for a better life, for a better economic opportunity. That doesn't mean they have a right to enter America, certainly not illegally. And Trump is right that if they came here illegally, they need to go back because we need to have a process. The whole idea of a border is that it delineates different approaches to the rule of law. In America, we're supposed to have a border, and you come here legally, and you can do the American dream. Great. Other countries don't have quite that same process, and that's why we have a border to delineate ourselves from them. But if you don't have that rule of law, you have absolute chaos. And the reason the United States still attracts so many trillions of dollars of capital from around the world is because that rule of law still exists. It does not exist in the Middle East. That is rule of men. That is not rule of law. They may have billions and trillions of dollars from oil wealth, but you do not have rights as a citizen there at all. And I've seen it in the commercial courts, et cetera. America, for warts and all, still has the best rule of law. It's really why the lawfare and the nonsense that was applied to Trump and friends of Trump is absolutely disgusting and must be stopped because that makes us look, feel, and act like a third world country. So,
Yeah.
it is right. It is right also for Trump to say there must be consequences because this nonsense cannot continue because that makes us look like every other third world country.
Well, look, if you look at our core American principles, they're entering a revival under Donald Trump's leadership. And this is why, Thanksgiving is so fundamental to our history as a nation, as a culture, as a society, where, people, even warring factions, sat down to give thanks to the Almighty at the time. But fascinating, though, and, Off Leash viewers love your take on history. You are our resident historian, Eric, but taking us back to the very beginning and talking about how, private enterprise really was at the core of our founding as a nation and as a culture and was the source of our success. But what's fascinating to me is free enterprise has gotten muddled over the last several decades from the military industrial complex, who wants to keep us at war at every opportunity, to a lack of enforcement from the federal government of antitrust laws, allowing these massive, massive corporations to destroy small business and out of step with the consumer interests. Free market solutions, I think, are going to be entering a revival. Thank goodness, under Donald Trump. And that's really at the core of what you're talking about, both with history and our foundings, and also what you're observing across the world today.
Yeah, when they sat down for the first Thanksgiving in Massachusetts, it was a celebration because they didn't have a famine. Because their first attempts at coming to the New World and building a colony was a collectivist one. There was no private property. And so nothing worked, and they had severe famine deprivation in all the places. And it was finally when they divvied up land and let people farm individually, and when you you could reap what you sowed, they had a bountiful harvest, and they had Thanksgiving. And so it's a I think it's important to remember Thanksgiving truly is a celebration of small business, private, free market capitalism, and to give thanks to the Creator for making it all possible. That's it's important to do. It is not about Black Friday shopping. It is not about any of that, but to remember that brave people came here, risked everything for a better opportunity, and it finally worked. And we better not screw that up, because that's a hell of a legacy that we must continue.
Well, and thanks to Donald Trump, courage is back in vogue. He took a bullet for his country and stood up and said, "We're going to fight, fight, fight." And so I'm hoping that we are really entering a new renaissance, but it's through free market solutions. Tell me how you think Donald Trump might get this, globalism in check, the military-industrial complex that fuels globalism, and hopefully, I mean, I will tell you, in his first term, he used economic leverage brilliantly, and that's what kept us out of war. I believe he'll do that again, but will he utilize free market solutions, private military contractors, in a way that we haven't seen in decades?
I think one of the reasons U.S. foreign policy has been so bollocksed up the last 30 plus years is it's largely been all government. The business of America is business. Our embassies have been outposts of NGOs and the military industrial complex and large corporations, if any business at all, and not ones that are just promoting good governance and the basic American free market capitalism or helping small businesses. Our embassies have become so over fortified that they're extremely unfriendly to locals, let alone even to American citizens, to go there. And so, yes, there are certainly opportunities for the private sector to bring the operating costs down to helping partner nations, because clearly even the U.S. approach for counterterrorism for the 20 years of GWAT has demonstrably failed. We've been focused, this pyramid, right? Everybody's focused on finding the very top guy with the thinking that our techno brilliance can always find the head of the snake and cut the head of the snake off, and that the snake will wither and die. That's just not the case. History, time and time again, shows if you're going to win a war, you have to go after the manpower, logistics, and finance, and you have to kill up to 30% of your enemy's manpower. As brutal as that sounds, that's what has to happen. And we have gotten away from that completely, and it shows a lack of seriousness, and it shows a lack of historical recollection of any of the people making those decisions. So, yeah, look, what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are trying to do with the Doge effort is fantastic. If they do a fundamental rewrite of that budget request for a presidential budget, which is going to be much less than what the nonsense that Congress just reauthorizes every year, we'll start to see shrinking government and shrinking insanity, which is exactly what we need, because we cannot afford this anymore. 25% of tax collection now goes to pay the debt, the interest, not even the budget deficit, the interest on the budget deficit, 25% of collected taxes. So we do have to grow our way out of this, and we also have to cut spending. The government hasn't gone on a diet in decades, and it is time to tighten a belt a lot.
Well, and it had to get worse before it got better, because these jackasses in Washington thought it was appropriate for us to be spending $2 trillion on top of our pre-pandemic budget, unending, since then. And, the perfect example of the corruption and waste that those guys are going to go after is what was revealed this week in a hearing, with one NGO receiving $600 million every quarter for immigration. And honestly, we take a closer look at this NGO, they're going to be shown as probably the world's greatest child sex trafficker that we have ever seen, because
Wow.
that's the corruption that's been going on here these last couple of years, Eric.
That's really I was not even aware of that, Mark. So yeah, it's disgusting how much money is wasted and fire hosed onto all the wrong destinations by Washington. I say cut it all down a lot. And people will say, "Well, you're a military-industrial complex." No, I have advocated since I started Blackwater. Please cut the budget, cut it a lot, and make people compete to do the job, and you will find it better. The United States military is like Mark Milley running a triathlon. He's an obese triathlete, and that guy, the whole thing needs a diet.
Yeah, if we've proven anything here on Off Leash, is you are a PMC guy, not an MIC guy, and an advocate, um, and
Look,
you know,
look at what Elon Musk said. We're gonna to make life sustainable, affordable, a colony on Mars. He was looking to reduce the cost of launch by 1,000-fold, and I think he's going to get there and then some. That's extraordinary. That's what the private sector can do to the rest of the defense industry if given the chance.
So let's, for our exit here, Eric, let's bring it back to where we began, which is these countries in Africa that you visited, because it's a fascinating image to me that you describe this oasis, poverty all around, corruption that has led to devastating, human catastrophes in these
Yeah,
countries.
yeah.
And
Look,
yet there's this oasis which proves you can do the alternative.
which proves that excellence can exist anywhere if there's a definition where the private sector can do its thing and flourish. It can bring order to chaos, right? The definition of entrepreneurialism is the creative destruction of the old order, not just destruction, creative destruction. And so to be an entrepreneur, you have to make something better. And the private sector generally is the very, very best thing on the planet for doing that. It doesn't do it perfectly all the time, granted, but all government and all corruption all the time is the embodiment of what almost 1 billion people in Africa suffer from every day, and I feel terrible for them. I mean, look, when I go to Africa and I go to the rough spots, endure it for a while, and then when the landing gear folds in the aircraft at takeoff, it's a very good feeling. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't have the opportunity to get out of there and to go to a nice place where the whole community is safe. And I'm not a scared guy, but there are places I go that you almost feel like you can be eaten, not by the animals, by just by the absolute carnage and chaos, the mayhem that is pervasive there. So look, there's got to be some better governance models that people are up to try. And it was a great reminder for me as we approach Thanksgiving again of literally carving a nation out of a wilderness by sheer grit of the people that came here. They hired private military contractors to do it. They risked their own capital to do it, and they made it work. And so we have an amazing country to build on, and amazing brighter future. And I think we should certainly strive for another golden age, especially because a year from July is our 250th anniversary. So we ought to be doing some really cool things by then.
Great reflections about American exceptionalism, our founding, the fact that it started with free market solutions. And man, are we thankful that the American people chose free market solutions again in this election. How much we have to look forward to with I think will be an American renaissance. And by the way, I think it will benefit the world because Donald Trump's got a huge heart. He wants to change the world. He wants to make America great again. And man, what a lot to be thankful for that we can return to those roots, our free market roots with Donald Trump in the lead. But look, we at Off Leash here appreciate the chance to reach so many viewers who want to get wisdom and insights from Eric. And we're just so thankful for those who give us their time to watch us. We're thankful for our sponsor, Unplugged. We're thankful for you, Erik, and your family, for producer Steve. So just wishing everybody a great Thanksgiving and appreciate your insights. Last word to you, Erik.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And, give your loved ones a hug and a kiss if they're close, or a call if they're not, because you never know how long they'll be around.
Amen to that. Excellent. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We appreciate you being with us on this episode of Off Leash with Erik Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. Until next time.